Welcome to episode 1 of Hometown Hauntings. This is a podcast put out by Ghost City Tours where we explore the hauntings in your hometown. I'm your host, Tim Nealon, and I have Misty Watkins with me, who is co-hosting the show. And in episode 1, we're going to be focusing on San Antonio and all the ghosts that haunt there. And on the line, we have Cory Neal. He's the owner and general manager of Pat O'Brien's in San Antonio. And I know, Cory, you have a lot of ghosts and stuff there. But before we dive into that, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you end up in San Antonio owning a haunted bar?
Wow. Well, how much time do we have on this podcast?
Yeah, 4 hours.
Long story. Yeah, 2 hours. Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try not to bore everybody and kill everybody so that they are listening to us in their afterlife. So I'm originally from San Antonio, born and raised. Went to, after graduated college, went to law school, was putting my way through law school in the restaurant business, kind of got, the adage is that you kind of get bit by the vampire in this industry. Right. And once you're bit, you kind of are stuck. And it certainly was for me. So, I've been in the restaurant industry for 30 plus years, owned Pat O'Brien's now for going on 20. We're about ready to celebrate our 20th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of a big accomplishment, certainly. But so we moved back to San Antonio. Out of law school once I graduated, and I've just been back here, I guess, ever since. But I've traveled the country, lived in other places, and San Antonio is just really a special place. So for those listeners out there, whether they are locals here in San Antonio that hopefully will come down and support Pat O'Brien's or support downtown San Antonio, and for those listeners that are out of the city or out of the state, I would highly recommend San Antonio as a place to visit, both for the paranormal and for just the experience of San Antonio. It's a great, great town.
So I'm very curious, why would you abandon law school, which seems like a good thing, because you can get a job as a lawyer all the time. We always need more shitbags. Exactly. How do you go from I want to be a lawyer to I'm going to own a haunted bar / restaurant?
Well, that was not the plan, certainly. So after I graduated law school, like I said, I put my way through law school, making money, waiting tables. And my parents moved. I was in Oklahoma, in law school in Oklahoma, and I think they really just wanted to get rid of me, Tim.
Oh,
and
sure.
so they moved to Oklahoma. I followed them, and they said, we're going back to San Antonio. So I was stuck up there, needed a job. And so started waiting tables and fell in love with the industry and was kind of managing that restaurant there. And so they were a company that was kind of blown up at the time. This was 30 years ago, Outback Steakhouse, and they had a partnership program where you could kind of be a partner involved in it. And so it was really good for me then. And I was actually, the dishwasher didn't show up one day, and I was washing. I jumped in and said, "Man, I'll wash dishes." And the owner, big guy that owned 50 units of Outback, walked in, and I'd met him a few times, and he was like, "Cory, what are you doing back here?" And I told him, and he said, "Be in my office tomorrow. I've got something I'm to you about." And so he offered me a position, and I really didn't have a gig set up as an attorney yet. Right. And so, 6 figures coming out of law school is what he paid me. And so it's worked out well for me.
Yeah. Most people who get called into the boss's office, they're out of a job.
Yeah. Exactly. This was a good thing. So, after 30 years, I don't know whether I should send him a thank you note or, cuss him out for getting involved in this industry, but it's worked out, man. I'm, like I said, and then, Pat O's, I put my way, thought about, I worked for Outback for about 10 years and sold my unit that I had back to them, and didn't know what I was going to do. I took about 6 months off, was studied for the bar because I'd never really sat for the bar exam. Studied for the bar, and the night before the bar exam, I just kind of was like, man, I am not going to pass this. Needless to say, I didn't study that hard. I spent a lot of time on the golf course, spent a lot of time in the movie theaters. I remember telling my wife at the time, did you know how many times Seinfeld comes on in a day? And she was like, no, I don't know because I have a fucking job.
Right. So all that. Yeah, so all that brought you to Pat O'Brien's. So anybody who doesn't know what that is, like, tell us what Pat O'Brien's.
So Pat O'Brien's is a world famous bar in New Orleans, right there in the French Quarter. And so they started in 1933. So they've been around going on close to 100 years, 90 years, whatever that is now. Mm-hmm. And just really, if you take a carriage ride through the French Quarter, they stop at Pat O'Brien's and kind of tell you their story. They invented the Hurricane. They invented the dueling piano bar. So they're pretty famous, and they opened a location here in San Antonio. Hey, look at that. That's what we're famous for. There's the Hurricane.
Does this actually have alcohol in it?
Yeah. I'm totally jealous of you guys right now.
Oh yeah, that has alcohol in it.
Yeah. So they opened a location here in 2003, August of 2003. And, just kind of whatever happened, it wasn't working. And somehow they got my name. To this day, I really don't know. But I, mentioned I was kind of studying for the bar exam. They got my name. I came in here and just really fell in love with the place. And the first thing I noticed when I walked in was the people that were here. In most bars that you go to, you can kind of tell a trend, i.e., hey, this is a younger person's bar, older person's bar. And Pat O's, there were tables that, you had people in their 70s partying alongside people in their 20s. Nice. And that's that. Yeah. And so we've been able to keep that up and been successful as a result. But, I hope we represent that brand well, because I'm very proud to be a part of their brand. They have, at the time in 2003, they had, I think 6 locations, or 7 locations. And now they're down to there's only 3 of us left, i.e. the one in New Orleans, one here, and one in Universal Studios, Orlando. So I feel really honored to, kind of represent that brand, and hopefully we do it well. And we obviously have to do things a little bit different than New Orleans, because we are not in New Orleans. And so we kind of put our own little flair on things. And so we do live music on our patio. We also have, obviously, the dueling piano bar. We have a DJ upstairs. So this is a spot where, there's a lot of different kind of live music, different types of venues almost in the one venue itself. So I'm currently sitting in, I know this rock wall is kind of behind me, but we have about a 10,000 square foot banquet facility as well. So we do a lot of weddings, corporate events, things like that. So we've been, we're located in downtown San Antonio. So we've been blessed with, both the tourists that come in and really recognize the brand and the name and come and visit us. But you really need local support to really make things work.
Absolutely.
And we're well known and well established in San Antonio. We've had a lot of people when I walk around town, and getting a haircut or whatever I'm doing at the grocery store, and I've got a Pat O's shirt. I can't tell you the number of times I'm stopped and people come up with the stories about, hey, I met my wife there, or I had such a good time, or I don't remember shit.
I'm sorry for that.
Happened there. It was such a successful night.
Yeah, Pat O'Brien's definitely has a reputation. We'll say that. I mean, here in New Orleans, for example, I think Pat O'Brien's is responsible for more vomit on Bourbon Street, exposed breasts, and good times than probably any other bar that I'm aware of.
Well, Tim, I'll tell you the story. So when I first started, and I would leave and kind of have my days off or whatever. In the beginning, I didn't have many of those, I assure you. I was the guy that cleaned it, the guy that greeted you at the door. I mean, went and saw my wife and kids at the time and for dinner, and then come back and close it down. So I was here a lot. And so when I would come back from a day off or something, I would actually, from the parking garage, walk to the business and look for vomit stains and go, oh man, it was a busy night.
Yeah, somebody had fun last night.
Another satisfied guest.
There you go.
Hey. All right. So the whole purpose of this podcast is we're talking about ghosts and stuff like that. And I've heard it through the grapevine that Pat O's in San Antonio might be home to a number of ghosts. And I'm kind of curious, what exactly is going on at Pat O's? Have you experienced anything? And where do you think they're coming from?
Did you know it was haunted before you took over?
And that too.
Yeah, no idea. And I'll be honest. I mean, I wasn't never ever really a believer, or I mean, I wasn't skeptical or anything like that. I just never had really encountered any experiences to where I could either say yes or no, either way. But it was pretty evident from the get-go that there was something here, something supernatural, something paranormal. And it, again, I mentioned, in my early days, when we started the business, or I kind of took over and bought the business, it was one of those things that, we just were kind of getting off the ground and didn't have a lot of money to pay anybody. So I was doing everything. So I was here a lot.
Right. A lot of late nights.
A lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings. Mm-hmm. And so, you just kind of, you always feel like there's somebody kind of around you. It's hard to explain, even though you're the only one in the building, and so think. Yeah. and so it was a lot of like, you would hear footsteps and go, oh, well, maybe someone's here. And then you go into the room and there's nobody here. There were, when I would close at night, I would make my staff, kind of hang out just so I was kind of safe at night, not from ghosts, but just from, other people, whatever, in the downtown area. And so I'd have a team of 4, 5, 6 people here kind of waiting while I closed it down. And so we'd go through the building and literally shut off all the lights, go out the front door, turn off lock the door, sit down. And next thing you know, all the lights are back on and there's nobody in the building. And the light switches are actually, there's those ones in the wall that you need a key to kind of pop open. So it's not like an easy light switch that somebody could have brushed by or anything. And it got, so I would go back upstairs. We got to the point, guys, where I would just, walk out, turn off all the lights, go out, look up, and everyone would be like, hey, the lights are on. Just leave them. Don't worry about it, because they're going to come back on anyway.
So I'm assuming at this point, it started to hit you that your building might be haunted.
And then you hear other stories from staff. Pianos, we have pianos throughout our building. We have, piano lounge that I mentioned where we do dueling pianos shows. And then we have in our Briar Suite, which is kind of another private party space, that we have, it has a piano in it. And traditionally the more occurrences that are kind of discussed and talked about do occur upstairs. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple reasons that people that have come in here have said that may be the case. And one of those is the fact that, this building dates into the 1880s. It's been...
That was actually going to be my next question. Like, what do you know about the history of the building that you're in?
So the building is somewhere in the 1880s. We're about, for those who are familiar with San Antonio, we are kind of a stone's throw, a musket shot, if you will, away from the Alamo. And so, but seriously, this had to be a huge battleground during the Battle of the Alamo, which was in the Alamo fell in 1836. So about 50 years after that or so is when this building was constructed and built. So, and in between that, from the time we got it in 2001, because they started construction on it, in 1886 to 2001, it's been a lot of different things, and it's really kind of come back full circle, because the first thing it was, via the historical documents, it was a tavern, a kind of a beer garden, if you will. And then it became all kinds of things. It became a shoe store, a pharmacy. When we were doing some of the construction, you would find old pill bottles, things like that. And so pretty cool stuff. So what they're thinking is that there was a family that would live upstairs, which was typical in that day and age, where a lot of families would own the downstairs and the business would be downstairs. The upstairs would be the quarters for the family.
Kind of like Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, exactly. Bob's Burgers. And so they think that maybe that has, somebody may have died or in the building itself and kind of come back for that. So, but yeah, as far as kind of my personal experiences that I've seen, that I can share, I've had,
before we get into that, one of the things you brought up was your close proximity to the Alamo. Mm-hmm. And every time I visit San Antonio, one of the things that always amazes me is the number of people who visit the Alamo and they see the walls that are up now and they think that's it. Like that was
Right.
it. And in reality, the Alamo actually used to be much larger. That mission was much larger. And correct me if I'm wrong, but right now the walls that are the exterior walls of the Alamo, those were essentially interior walls at one point, weren't they?
So the Alamo structure that we're famous for, you know, and you see it on Pee Wee Herman, you know, where's the basement deal? That structure was really the church. So around it, you know, there are some existing walls that are kind of on the street, but yeah, it was a huge structure, you know, that dated back into the 1700s. This area where Patos is located would have been a huge kind of battleground.
Yeah, that's what I was hinting at. Because at one point, because I think I know about where Pat O'Brien's is, and it seems like, at least in my mind, that the idea of the battle that took place, there's a very good likelihood that battle was taking place literally where Pat O'Brien's is today. Like,
absolutely, Tim, for sure.
There's no way.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And and I will tell you that they are they're redoing the Alamo completely currently.
Oh, we're aware. Our tour groups are always,
notifications.
Can't find a tour guide because of construction or, you know, whatever the case
exactly.
may be.
Yeah. It's kind of a nightmare right now.
Yeah.
But it really is, you know, we were designated a World Heritage Site, which is a huge deal for San Antonio. I think we're the only, if I'm not mistaken, we're the only North American World Heritage Site. You know, they're all over the world.
So what does that mean?
But the missions.
So what does that mean for San Antonio?
It's going to be huge. And obviously we're certainly hoping it's going to bring a lot of international visitors to San Antonio and really kind of help put us even more on the map than we already are. You know, we have a number of, the Alamo is just one mission that was created. We have a number of missions around town and kind of in the downtown area. And again, the reason that the Alamo was chosen for its site is proximity to the river, being able to get water, which, you know, again, Patos, the San Antonio River is famous. It's a river walk that you can kind of stroll around. It has restaurants and bars and things like that. And we're right above that river. So we're kind of in the middle between the two busiest attractions in the state of Texas, i.e. the Alamo and the San Antonio River Walk. So, you know, we feel like we got a great location and certainly, again, because of the history of San Antonio and the Battle of the Alamo and just everything that is around this downtown area, we definitely feel like we have our share of ghosts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ghosts that are in Pat O'Brien's, have you guys been able to identify who they might be? Or do you have any ideas of who they might be?
Well, we do think that, so we nicknamed him Timmy, the staff did, right? And so we think he's about a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, somewhere in that little boy. And there's a reason that we think that, and it's really through guest sightings. Okay. So, and this is a story that, you know, I'll share that. So I was working one evening and the host comes up to me and says, hey, Cory, a guest wants to speak to a manager. But they weren't in the building. The guest was actually outside on the Alamo Street.
Does that actually make them a guest then?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's a guest at Pat O'Brien's, Tim. Anyway, a potential guest for sure. So I walk out and I'm, you know, yes, ma'am, how can I help you? And she says, you know, I don't think it's appropriate that you have children upstairs in your bar right now. And I said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I don't know what you're referring to. She goes, I was walking down the street, which is Alamo Street, right?
Okay.
And we have our Briars Suite, which faces the Alamo Street. And it's full of windows, obviously, and you can see the Alamo kind of from it, and the Minger Hotel, which is another site in downtown San Antonio that's extremely haunted.
Very haunted.
Anyway, so she says, and I saw a little boy up there, and his hands and his face are plastered against the window. And I said, ma'am, you're welcome to come up with me, and I'll show you that room is completely empty. And so she did, and she came up and she said, well, I know what I saw. And so then I had to explain to her, well, ma'am, I'll be honest with you. We've been known to have ghost sightings, and it's a little boy, and i.e. we nicknamed him Timmy, and he's rambunctious. He'll get on the piano and play the piano. He'll trip kind of people going up the stairs where people
little
feel
kid.
like,
yeah.
I mean,
if I was the ghost of an 8-year-old kid, I'd be hanging out on a bar too.
Oh yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? Right.
I'd be a little shit.
You might see some breasts. You might, I mean,
oh God,
fornication. We've there's been some crazy other things that we can. That's a different podcast though.
Yeah.
But yeah. So. And she, needless to say, she did not believe my story that, it was a ghost that you saw, ma'am. But again, there was nobody in the building, and certainly we don't allow children in here at that hour. So, but yeah, so that was one. I've had.
Well, Timmy himself, like when people see him, like how do they describe him? Does he look? I guess what I'm getting at is
like is the apparition really clear? Like he's making himself very noticeable to people? Because if she could see him from the street, it's like.
Again, I have never seen Timmy, but I have experienced Timmy, but other staff members have seen him. And I've had guests that have seen him and said that a kid came running by them. And we're like, there's no kid in this building, And so, but he's little. And, again, that's why they think. And we had a gentleman, we've been on many shows, some TV shows, ghost tours. It was a nationally televised TV show. They came and did a study here. Russell Rush was, unfortunately, we just lost him to cancer. But he was on a national radio station here in San Antonio and did a national Halloween kind of deal where he would go around, and it got picked up, and he actually went around other cities and did it. But he spent 3 nights in here, and I would highly recommend somebody go on if they wanted to Google the Russell Rush show and kind of see what he experienced here at Pat O's. We've had seances here, we've had mediums here, we've had a lot of psychics here. And they've all said that there are definitely some spirits here, and they have, found them to be a younger energy, I guess, is what they say. And again, that like we said, that may make sense with the fact that whoever was here owning the business down below could have been have children, and unfortunately one passed away here. And I don't know how ghosts work. And I mean, so do you only visit the places that you lived, or can you go anywhere? I mean, can I go to Disneyland if I want to be a ghost?
I mean, I think that dives into a whole other topic, but I mean, for me, I don't think ghosts are restricted to where they lived or died. I mean, if let's say they are energy, right? I mean, because there's something. Right. I mean, it has to be energy, right? I mean, energy can kind of do whatever it wants. It doesn't have to like, oh, I died here, so I'm restricted to this bedroom or this bathroom.
Yeah, maybe those places that bring back that memory or that.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming like if we want to believe ghosts are actually, like a human being who is no longer with us, I'm sure that there is some, I'd probably want to hang out in places that I frequented, but at the same time, I'm going to a lot of places that, airfare is expensive. If I'm a ghost, like it's like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to visit, India and see the Taj Mahal. Yeah. Like that's where I'm going. But well, Timmy himself, like I'm assuming like when people see him, he's probably not wearing like modern clothes, for example. Is there any suggestion or anything going on when people see him or that they've described him that would suggest that he's probably been there a while?
No, yeah, I mean, again, I haven't heard stories on his garments. What I have heard stories on is that, so for instance, in that Briar Suite where the lady allegedly saw something, we've put powder on the windows and come back the next day and there are handprints on the windows.
Damn it, Timmy, quit messing up our windows.
Exactly. So if we miss a cleaning day, Tim, Misty, it's really easy because I just blame it on the ghost. I'm like I'm sorry that window wasn't cleaned. It was cleaned yesterday, but the ghost really messed it up.
I would blame everything.
Leave out some Windex and the paper towel.
Yeah, I would blame everything on him. Be like, oh, there was a minor in the bar. That must have been Timmy that let him in.
It must have been Timmy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, your food was burnt, Timmy.
Damn
Timmy.
Damn Timmy. Everything. Yeah, you didn't like it. It's Timmy's fault.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you'll start seeing reviews on TripAdvisor.
Damn,
this little kid named Timmy didn't mix my Cosmopolitan the right way.
My hurricane was very strong.
Oh yeah, no. And again, I mean, he's playful, right? And that's what I've never been scared. Again, I've been here 20 years, been in this building. I'm currently in this building alone right now. And again, I'm not in our Briar Suite is where the most occurrences happen, but we're getting it ready for a holiday party. And so, I didn't want to do it there, but I'm in my Grand Promenade which is a big facility. And again, I've heard footsteps in here. I've heard, noises in here. But I was talking to a median that came through Pados, and we get a lot of, like I said, we get a lot of inquiries, hey, we hear you're haunted. We want to come spend some time. And I'm all about it. I let anybody that wants to come in here, with valid accreditation. I don't know,
right.
Whatever, college degree or whatever degree you need to do that. I don't know.
Nobody pushing a shopping cart, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or we come in. I was afraid the first time I let somebody in that I was going to come in the next morning and they'd be passed out drunk, from this open bar that they could possibly have. But they've done them up here. And again, what people will have told me is that the longer you are in a spot that is apparently haunted, the more like furniture we become. Right. So we really are just part of the building now. And so, it really, I'm getting goosebumps kind of talking because like right now I feel like someone's going to come touch me behind my back.
God, I hope so.
That would be cool, huh?
That would be awful. So, but anyway, so I've never really been scared. I've been, kind of nervous, maybe freaked, like, and whatever. Late night, I'm in and out kind of deal if I need to be here. But I would. So, but on that note, so personally, I haven't, right? But I did have. I was taking a potential hire. He was going to be security for us, right? And kind of IDing people at the front door, and kind of we move them around, so they needed to know the whole building. I took him around and took him to all the different spots. And, so we visited the down, say, hey, this is the patio bar area, outdoor patio. Took him in the piano lounge. Here's the piano lounge. I take him up the stairs. We walk into the Briar Suite. He literally takes, 2 or 3 steps in. And he's wearing a crucifix, so I could tell that he was a religious individual. And he goes, hey, Cory, I'm so sorry. I said, yeah, what's the problem? And he goes, I can't work here. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't know how to describe it, but there is a presence in here that I am not comfortable with. And I said, well, man, I totally appreciate that and respect that. And I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. So while I have never been scared I have had people obviously that have felt it and did not want to be here as a result. So,
well, we have that problem here actually at here in Covington where we're based. We have about 12,000 ish. I think it's actually a little bit more than that. I think we have about 14,000 square feet of office space here. And we house our contact center in one main building. So half that building is strictly the call center for people calling in, buying tours and stuff. And it was actually I think it was just the other day, wasn't it? I'm not going to mention her name, but there was a new girl who was like, I don't want to be here late at night. I hear the keys typing on the keyboard and, all this stuff. And by far, by the way, she's far from the first person who has suggested that these buildings are haunted. But in my mind, so like if they would have been like, I can't work here, there's a ghost here. I don't know. I mean, with this person, I was like, quit being a pussy and get back to work. But like,
that's what I
I mean, trust me, I was a little taken aback, but I mean, to each their own. And the other thing I'm really proud of, Tim and Mistie, is, so, in our industry, the turnover rate is about 300%. Right. Yeah. So you're hiring and firing your 3 times a year. Right. I have staff that have been with me for the entire time, 20 years. Oh, wow. And when I say I have staff, I mean, I have probably 15 employees that have been here for at minimum of 12, 13, 14, 15 on up years. And the reason for that is number one, hopefully the ghosts are friendly with them as well. But number two, I'm a big believer that, guests have choices on where to go and spend their money. Employees have choices on where to work. And so it doesn't mean I'm not going to ask you to work, but I am going to provide an environment that you're respected in, that you're appreciated in, and because they're the difference, right? As much as I brag about the food and the drink that we serve, at the end of the day, you can go anywhere and get similar things, right? But what you can't get is hopefully an experience by these kind of people that we have. So people are really important to me because they ultimately are what makes this business successful. And so if that person didn't want to be here, I didn't want him here because I want somebody that wants to be here.
And there's plenty of them.
Exactly.
So
yes. Well, it sounds like you're doing something right though to retain those people. So good job on
you. Well, thank you. Yeah. Misery loves company.
Of course.
Is what
that's very true.
And but yeah, so I will share another kind of experience. So I had we were doing some work upstairs, right? And I had a contractor up there. And he was painting the women's bathroom, which is kind of tied to the, we have men and women's upstairs is our Briar Suite, which I've mentioned a lot. And then we have a main bar, which is patterned after the main bar in New Orleans. But I really am, again, trying to kind of, as I explained, we've kind of spun San Antonio its own way. Mm-hmm. And so that is a DJ room. So it's a nightclub really that has kind of turned, but it's kind of the locals bar where a lot of locals go and enjoy themselves. Well, there's 2 bathrooms that are tied upstairs as well, the women's and men's. And so this day, this individual was painting the women's bathroom, right? And he said that, I'd leave, hey, I'm going to go paint. Okay, good to see you, good going up there. And I don't know, probably about 2 hours, hour and a half later, he comes down and he is, pardon the expression, but as white as a ghost, right? He is pale, he's sweating, and he said, I cannot work here. And I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean you can't work here? You've been working, And he goes, I don't care. You don't have to pay me. I'm leaving. And I was like, well, what happened? What are you talking about?
I would have been like, perfect. I don't got to pay you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I just need to find another one to do the other half.
I didn't know how much he had gotten done, Tim. Before you do that, you don't know. So anyway, I said, man, what are you talking? What happened? Tell me what happened. He said he was upstairs and he's painting in the back stalls, right, by the women's restroom. And he has his ladder. And it's between the door, the women's bathroom door, and where he is. And it's just him in the restroom. So he's doing work up there. The ladder, he's got the door closed, right? The bathroom door closed. Women's bathroom door is closed. The ladder's in the middle of the bathroom. He's in one of the stalls, right? And painting. And so he comes down, white as a ghost, and says, I'm not working here. And I said, finally I got it out of him. I said, what do you mean you're not? And he said, I'm in there painting. He says the ladder shimmies by itself through the door, so the ladder is literally just kind of shimmying to the door. The door opens and closes.
That's some Ghostbuster shit right there. Like a fridge opening, like I am Zool.
Yeah. And so he left everything here, never came back.
Did you finish painting yourself?
No, it's still not done.
Oh.
So if you got, 10 years, just kidding. Yeah, no. We finished, found somebody else who apparently wasn't, scared or concerned about the ghosts, or they didn't bother that person. So, so yes, we've had some experiences. Staff has had numerous experiences. I haven't seen, but, how alcohol sits in the wells, right? We have a well. Yep. Literally, the alcohol will raise up, kind of levitate, and drop on the floor. Glassware kind of falling off. Things that, and not glassware that's on the edge, right? You're talking about glassware way in the back that kind of gets scooted off of the shelf inexplicably. So
now, do you have any? I know in some instances, security cameras or something sometimes picks that up. Have you ever been able to capture any of this on camera?
No, I mean, it's always kind of, guess what happened 3 days ago?
After the fact. Okay.
You hear it kind of that way. But so no, nothing that. But again, we've had some tours that are people come through. Again, the Russell Rush one, which is I highly recommend, and they had audio and video, and so it is up on the internet. If you go in and you Google Pat O'Brien's haunted experiences, those will come up, and they will get some images, things like that.
Yeah, we'll try to find those links and then post them in the show notes.
Do you have people that come just specifically to check out that Briar room?
Yeah, so what we do, we have, like I mentioned, I have people,
but not for like paranormal. Just like, say I was going with somebody and was like, "Oh, we want to stop there just to see if we could check out that room."
No, I mean, not nobody specifically that is that, I'm immersed in it. But I do get emails, probably 2 or 3 a year that say, hey, I hear you're haunted. I'd love to come and do a tour and spend the night. And we do this seance kind of ritual and stuff. So things like that, have piqued people's interest, that I do get kind of interested folks that way.
Have you ever had, for example, Ghost City Tours, what we used to do, we used to rent out these very famous haunted locations across the country, like Bobby Mackey's, Mansfield Reformatory, like all these places. And we would have people fly in from all over the country and join us for a night of ghost hunting or 2 nights or however long they wanted to stay. Have you ever had anybody spend the night at Pat O'Brien's with the intention of, setting up equipment, trying to communicate with the ghosts? Let's try to figure out who's here. Have you ever done that?
Multiple times.
What they find out?
Occasions. Again, I mean, that similar stuff that we've already kind of gone over, but just piano playing, being played, noises, whispering. They hear whispers and they're the only people in here. They've picked up on, I guess some of this equipment is pretty obviously high tech, so it can pick up frequencies that aren't audible to our naked ear or whatever. And so they'll pick things up like that. Aberrations have been seen. So yes, again, there are people that have definitely come in here and verified the fact that, hey, something's here, whether it's one, multiple, or whatever. So
no, I have no doubt. I mean, for what it's worth, with our research, because we do a lot of research, as a ghost tour company, we want to look into things, see the history of places, the ghosts, because we're taking people on tours of these locations. So, we have to get our facts and information straight. And it's always impressed me about San Antonio, just how haunted the whole downtown area is.
Right.
I mean, so it seems like Pat O'Brien's is just fitting into that haunted narrative of downtown San Antonio.
Yeah, for sure.
So what about the buildings around you? Like, have you talked to the owners or employees of buildings that are around you, and have they experienced similar things?
Never really any owners or employees so much, but I've had guests. So obviously the Minger Hotel, which is directly located pretty much directly across from us, is I think their claim to fame is it's the oldest hotel, east of the Mississippi or something like that. And Teddy Roosevelt, when he was a Rough Rider in the 1910s, 20s,
they went to that bar.
The Minger Hotel bar. He signed a treaty there, and so there's a statue of Teddy Roosevelt before he was president out there. And so the story goes that obviously there's a couple of people that were killed in there or died in there. But I had a guest that I was working one day. It was during the week. And we were at the bar, and it was early. It was about noon, 12:30. We had kind of just opened up. And this guest walks in, and he's, obviously distraught, right? I mean, he just, and hey, let me get a drink, And so we sit down, and we were like, man, you okay?
Right.
And he said, yeah. And he goes, no, I'm not okay. He goes, I went to go check in at the meeting. He's not a local, right? He's an out-of-town guy for a convention or something. Goes in to check in at the Minger Hotel, and he says that when he got to the room, he was checked in, right? Put his luggage down by the bed,
right?
And then walked to kind of just use the restroom, wash his hands, whatever you do in the restroom, right? He comes back out, and there's an impression on his bed that is made out, right? And he goes, no one's in my room. I'm the only one in there. And so he calls down and was like, was someone in my room? What, and they were like, no, sir, your room was cleaned already, blah, blah, blah. So he says, well, I'd like a new room. So he moves to the new room, and now he gets into that room and puts his stuff down. And now he's in the actual bed area, and the water in the deal turns on. So he shows that he leaves. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm out of this. So he leaves and comes here, and he's got his bag with him, and he's asking us, where can I stay? It's not haunted in downtown.
Where the lights are always on.
I've actually stayed in the Minger. Actually, I'm trying to think. I think one time I stayed at the Days Inn on the riverfront. But other than that, I've always stayed at the Minger. And the few times that I've stayed there, I think it was twice. Both times I had things happen to me in the Minger. Yeah.
Really?
It's an old hotel. I was in bed when one of the things happened.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, it is an old hotel. Like even when you're walking down the hallways to your room, like that, the floors just have an old feel to it, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Like they kind of creaked a little bit, like it's an old building. No, one night I was in bed and I watched this black ball, like maybe the size of a little bit bigger than a softball, just move around the room. And I watched this with my own eyes. And of course I'm thinking like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But like that was pretty cool. And the footsteps, like you described at Pat O'Brien's, like there were times where I'm laying in bed and I hear things literally just walking around the bed. So the Menger's a great place to stay if you're looking for the ghosts.
So were you, I mean, Tim, so you're laying there in bed and this black orb or something is floating around.
Yeah.
You're not scared? I mean, you didn't.
There was a time where I was scared, but I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I mean, there was a time where like every little thing, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm out of here. But now it's to the point where like
more inquisitive.
Yeah, more like it's more interesting.
Yeah.
Like I've, like I mentioned, we used to do ghost hunts all over the country. And there have been times where I've literally stayed in a haunted location for 2 weeks with some of my buddies. And we left to go get food and that was it. We spent the night there. We literally lived in these haunted locations for weeks at a time. So now instead of, seeing a shadow person, for example, and wanting to get out of there, which is very natural, by the way, I'm not judging you if you
Yeah.
But now I'm to the point, like a couple months ago, one walked by my bed at my house and I kind of reached out like, oh, I want to touch you. Of course, like it never happened, but no, it doesn't bother me anymore. And it's just all a shift in the way you think. Like a lot of people think like ghosts are scary. To me, like over the years, I've become more of like, it's an honor that I got to experience this. Like, this isn't something scary. This is like, wow, how cool was it that I was sitting here and got to experience this? Like if I was a customer in your bar and I heard the piano playing, I wouldn't want to like abandon my cheese sticks and run for the door. I'd be like, shit, this is like, how cool is this?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
So
well, the more of those hurricanes you drink, the more noises you will hear. So.
Well, I'm already one down. I'm waiting for James, who's off camera over here. I was like, James, like, where's my,
where's my interact more with you if they feel like you're accepting to their presence or like a believer compared to those?
I don't know, because I've also seen the exact opposite where, people are like, I don't want the ghost to bother me. Like, for example, my girlfriend, Stephanie, her and I have been together a little over a year now, and my house happens to be very haunted. And I remember at first she was like, I don't like, if there's ghosts here, I'm not staying here. And of course we started dating. So I'm like, no, there's no ghosts here. You should totally spend the night. But like, as time went on, I've noticed that whether or not she had the attitude of like, there are no ghosts here, I want to pretend there's no ghosts here, or I'm acknowledging the fact that she sees shit every day, there's really no difference. I mean, they're just there.
Yeah.
The only ghosts at Tim's house are the ghosts of exes. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah.
I sure as hell hope
she
not.
should be worried about. Yeah. No. Yeah. And so you're right. San Antonio is considered the most haunted city in the state, right? And I think one of the
I totally believe that.
One of the most haunted cities in the country, I believe. And again, much like New Orleans, San Antonio just celebrated its tricentennial, so it's an old city, over 300 years, obviously, and so a lot of dead people between
lots of dead
today
people.
and when it occurred,
at least a few dozen.
Founded. Yeah, but at least 1,000. So.
Well, that brings us to like the bigger topic of haunted San Antonio as a whole. Everybody has their theories about why this place is haunted, why that place is haunted, and I don't know that we're ever going to know. But what is it about San Antonio that makes it so damn haunted? I mean, we have things like the Alamo. You always hear about, the natives, why is it every place that's haunted is supposedly on a burial ground, for example. But like, what is it about San Antonio that you believe, Cory, that makes it so damn haunted?
Man, and again, this is totally opinion, but no scientific proof, but. And it really goes to me how much I love this city. I mentioned early on that I've lived in other cities when I was studying and even after college and law school. trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I've been blessed to travel the world, right?
Sure.
And everywhere I travel, I really try and be an ambassador for this city. And you know, being born and raised here, we are the 7th largest city in the United States. A lot of people don't realize how big we are populace-wise. And apparently we are, as of last year, we were the fastest growing city in the United States.
Wow.
So we're getting a lot of influx of people.
It's all because of Six Flags, by the way. Everybody just wants to ride roller coasters year round.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
the whole reason. Yeah.
Totally.
And we have SeaWorld as well. So we have Six Flags, we have SeaWorld, we have a lot of shit here.
Yeah.
You know, and look, the cost of living is great in San Antonio, but ultimately, to answer your question, I really feel like we are such a familial town. There's a big influence, Hispanic culture right here in San Antonio, mainly populated with Hispanic people. And they are just the most loving and have this, you know, sense of family here. And, you know, we talked a little bit about, well, man, where if you can go somewhere, can you go anywhere, or do you stay where you are? And I don't know why you'd leave San Antonio. And I definitely think that has something to do with it, is that kind of love of their family. And so they want to be here with the family members that they adored and loved and are now maybe looking after. And again, just being such a great city that why would you want to go anywhere else and stay here as long as you can? This is the pearly gates. Right? San Antonio is the pearly.
It's heaven on earth.
It is heaven on earth.
It's so nice to hear locals like express their love for their city, because that shows.
Oh yeah.
Because I hate.
Well, no, and I'm a huge, I'm a huge fan of where you guys are, right? And I've been to Covington.
Really?
But you know, but Louisiana is a great state, and New Orleans, obviously, you know, in my 20-year relationship with Pat O'Brien's, you know, I can't count the number of times I've been to New Orleans, obviously, but it is a second home to me, and you know, I feel a lot of the same characteristics that I feel that really make San Antonio such an amazing city are very similar to New Orleans. Obviously, New Orleans folk like to party, right? Louisianans like to have a good time.
For the sake of work and education. Yeah,
exactly. But I will tell you, San Antonio, we like to throw a party too. And so, you know, Mardi Gras is a big time for New Orleans. And obviously New Orleans, I think, celebrates any day that ends in Y, which makes it special. But we do our similar deal. We have a fiesta. We put on a fiesta, and it's a 2-week party here in San Antonio. Typically runs in April. And that is a great time to really come and experience San Antonio. So I would, again, for those viewers or listeners who haven't been to San Antonio and are looking for when's the best time to come, that is a great time to really experience San Antonio and really see kind of how we kind of live and you know, all the different cultures that are here and things like that. So it's a lot of fun.
One of the things that always interested me about hauntings and ghosts is how different cultures not only perceive them, but kind of like influence their city, like when it comes to the haunted aspect of their city, if that makes any sense. Like here in New Orleans, for example, we have, or at least we used to have a big, like, let's say voodoo community, right? And I feel that culture and that community helped make New Orleans what it is today through their beliefs in the paranormal and through their ceremonies and all that. Like it helped shape New Orleans. And I know in San Antonio, being that you have such a huge Spanish-speaking population, whether they're from Mexico or Central America or wherever they're from, it tends to make your city heavy Catholic, unless I'm incorrect, but I think I'm correct. Right?
No, you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
So,
as a matter of fact, Tim, sorry to interrupt, but I'll just tell you, we just celebrated. Obviously, Halloween wasn't too long ago. Hard to believe we're close to Christmas already, but we just had Day of the Dead, right? Dias de los Muertos. And San Antonio has the largest Dias de los Muertos festival in the entire country. And again, another reason to come to San Antonio and visit on that, you know, basically November 1st, which is when that is, November 1st, November 2nd. And again, that is because of that Hispanic culture, identity, and you know, heavily influenced by the Catholic Church, you know.
So how what is the difference? Like, or have you noticed the difference? Like, not to get into you know, racial stuff or whatever, but the Hispanic population of San Antonio, do you notice a difference in the way that they think of the paranormal, interact with the paranormal, portray the paranormal than like a typical white guy, like,
or appreciate death, accept it more.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that had a big part in how San Antonio, the paranormal community, what's happening in San Antonio when it comes to ghosts. I'm sure that has shaped it somehow. So I think it's important to talk about, like, how is the Hispanic population, how do they differ in their beliefs? Not that you're speaking on behalf of the Hispanic population as a white guy.
Put that pressure on me.
Yeah, exactly.
After you describe me as the typical white guy.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you have enough Hispanic friends. Then you're going to put the pressure on me to speak for a Hispanic population. No. Yeah. Again, I will tell you that it's the sense of family and the sense of love for the, people. And, I lived out in LA for a little bit, right? And I remember being a South Texas boy. If you make eye contact with somebody, you say hi, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought I was going to get killed when I was in LA saying hi to somebody, and it happened multiple times. And so again, I think it's just really that sense of community and family. And I definitely think that, again, not speaking for that population, but I definitely feel like they definitely believe in the supernatural and the fact that their family members are with them and continue to guide them and love them and care for them. And again, that's both in the present life and in the past life, or future or whatever, or post life, I guess. So yeah, I mean, just again, this city is such a really a cool spot to be in as a white guy, right? And experience the from the food to the culture to just everything. I feel very blessed to have been raised in this city and be surrounded by the people that I'm surrounded by, so. No, I mean, when I came to San Antonio, because I've been there maybe 6 times for business, and that's one of the things I always liked about it. It was like almost like being in a different, I don't want to say country, but a different culture than what I'm accustomed to. Like, because, I grew up in Pennsylvania, I lived in Georgia, now I live in Louisiana, unfortunately. And, it was like going to, like I said, I don't want to say a new country, but it was like, it was just interesting to the restaurants, the bars, the people. It just felt like a different aspect of America that is fairly unique, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, I think you're right, Tim. I mean, again, when I've traveled or lived in the different spots that I've lived, people always, like I said, I like to be an ambassador for this city. And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I mean, obviously the more people that come to San Antonio, the better it is for my business, certainly. Sure. Right. Because hopefully they fumble into, into Patos here and have a good time. But ultimately, I do want them to experience this city, and I think you're right. And so when I go around and I talk to people and they tell me, well, what is it about San Antonio? You're exactly right. And I describe it, there's an identifiable culture. And I've been to a lot of cities and a lot of towns and a lot of states where that's not the case. There's it's a hodgepodge. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with hodgepodge, right? But the fact that you got here and could tell immediately, man, and maybe not put your finger on it, right? But it felt like a different experience, something that you had not experienced before in the United States even. And I think that's important, and again, we're so spread out geographically. San Antonio is one of the largest cities geographically. So although we have, 2.5 million people in San Antonio now, I think at last count, we're so spread out that you don't feel like it. You can get anywhere in this city in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So traffic isn't an issue like it is in Houston or like it is in Dallas. And so we really kind of, or Austin, I don't know if you haven't been to Austin in a while, Austin's a great city, but it is just so crowded. And so again, that's why, and maybe I'm doing a disservice by telling people to come to San Antonio and move here. I'm going to get it too crowded, but it really is just a special, special place. And so again, I know we've kind of veered off subject a little bit, talking about this city, but I think it's why, there is a belief in kind of the supernatural. And that, again, I look at that gentleman that was kind of coming through Patos, he was Hispanic. And why he didn't want to work here is he felt that, and he felt something that he wasn't comfortable with. Fortunately, again, kind of in your experience, Tim, when you're talking about how you've never really been scared, or especially now in 20 years.
I'm not saying I was never scared. It's been a while since I've been scared.
And the same thing for me, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that kind of how we become, it was described to me that we become furniture and fixtures in the space.
Mm-hmm.
The ghosts kind of become furniture and fixtures for me in that I'm comfortable walking around. I know that they're not going to do me harm.
Right.
And I know that, you know what I mean? And so I think Misty asked that question, where do you feel like you have to have, something in you to allow that ghost to kind of come out to you?
Yeah.
And, if we go kind of full circle, we were talking about energy and how, and I think it's whatever energy maybe you're putting out that ghost feels and maybe kind of responds to. Yeah.
So speaking of that city and how great San Antonio is, and you came back and that's your home, and how the community pulls together during the recession right now, and everybody struggling and trying to keep businesses open and people pulling together. How's the city pulled together during this time?
Very well. I mean, it's, COVID was obviously really tough. We were closed for about 8 months, where we actually had to shut our doors.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I'm most proud about with my staff too, right? Is for those 8 months, those guys could have gone anywhere, and they all came back. And so again, and so we opened up as a restaurant first, and we were limited on the number of people we could have. And, when you go from, it is so much harder to run a slow business than it is a busy one.
Yeah.
A slow business is the one you're worried about money. You're worried about taking care of guests because, servers aren't really, they're over in a corner going, blah, blah, blah. It's not busy. I'm going to just talk. So it's just so much easier running a busier business than it is a slow one. And so, particularly what I can tell you about Patos and the downtown area, it's a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing in our location because when people do come, we're here for them, right? And so it's a curse because, so if you think about what happened during that pandemic of 2 years, basically phones not ringing, trying to book 10,000, 20,000 person convention, right? That phone hasn't rung in 2 years or, previous, right? During that time. And those conventions just don't book out, right? You don't just call up and go, hey, I'm going to bring 10,000 of my closest friends next month. Yeah, and so I think for us, we're probably about 70% back to where we were pre-COVID in 2019. Okay. And that just really kind of depends. We may have a week where we're 100% back from the previous 2 years or 3 years ago, and we may have a week where we're down, 40%. So it's been, the way I describe it, it's been a roller coaster. But to answer your question specifically about San Antonio, it seems to have done very well. We're seeing a lot of out of state people moving to the city because, again, no state income tax, no large properties. You're not right on top of each other for the most part. So people can work from home now, get some land, things like that. So it's again, and this city is so resilient, and just, again, I think it's that culture that we've kind of talked about that is really just, it's embedded in them to, hey man, mañana.
Right.
We got to make it to mañana,
So how do we get all these people coming downtown? When I was in San Antonio, I talked to a lot of different people, and one of the things, at least the way I understood it, was, you have downtown San Antonio, and you have these incredibly massive, expansive suburbs, but people don't always come downtown for whatever reason. And I'm assuming a lot of it has to do with, the construction, because I've seen pictures and stuff. But how do we get these people coming downtown? What?
Well, Tim, I think that's the $1 million question. And look, I'm guilty of it, right? I mean, I told you I grew up here, born and raised. When I became 21 of legal age, I didn't go downtown either. Number one, look, you're driving, right? And so this was, prior.
Well, now you got Uber. You just call up an Uber and you're downtown, right?
But coming down here, parking is an issue, right? So there
call up an Uber.
Yeah, exactly. Again, when I was a kid, my excuse was there was an Uber, right? But now there is, and so I agree. I think Tim, I think it's just reminding people. I think the city needs to do I'm not going to say a better job, but do a job of reminding folks that what's down here, right? And let them know that this is the only place in San Antonio, and most of the downtowns are like that, right? In most cities, where you can actually bar hop.
Right.
And again, I'm a big advocate of Pat O'Brien's, but I'm not the only bar out that does a good job. We have a lot of bars in downtown San Antonio, a lot of restaurants in downtown San Antonio that do a fabulous job. And so this is the only spot where you can literally, like you said, Tim, take an Uber, come downtown, be dropped off. Let's meet at Pat O'Brien's, right? That could be our moniker.
Yeah.
Let's meet at Pat O'Brien's.
Yes.
Yeah, have dinner, whatever. But you can go and really kind of just bar hop and then call an Uber and be back to whatever suburb that you live in San Antonio. So yeah, I mean, and we're such, again, I'm guilty of it too. You don't realize the gym that you have in your backyard. And, the grass is always greener. I want to go somewhere else. I want to go to Austin. I want to go to, wherever it is, and go experiencing that when they don't even realize sometimes that, man, what you have 20 minutes away, 10 minutes away.
I agree.
I mean, you really couldn't sum up what our podcast is about any better than you just did.
Yeah.
I mean, throwing ghosts and hauntings, but other than that, you really can't do a better job. Because San Antonio, like you mentioned, if you're in the suburb of San Antonio and you're looking for something to do with your friends, like I totally get it. There's probably some dumb hipster bar that's by your place and they play, indie records or whatever, and that's cool or whatever, but it's not. But you can hop in an Uber, come downtown, like you said, like just when you go to Uber, just put in Pat O'Brien's, like they'll take you right there. I don't know if it's magic. It really is magic.
It is magic.
Like you come to Pat O'Brien's, you have a couple drinks, you have dinner. But if you really wanted to have an evening, especially for those people who are interested in ghosts and hauntings, like
make a day trip or a night trip.
You know what? I totally forgot. I own a ghost tour company.
I think you do.
I totally forgot about that. So you could go to Pat O'Brien's, have a drink,
and
go to dinner.
And that's one of our stops along the ghost tour.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Take a ghost tour. But then even after that, if you really wanted to have like a themed, evening, like a themed Friday
in the city.
Yeah, Friday night, Saturday night, there's so much to do, even if it's just walking around. I mean,
you can do it on a budget.
Yeah, it's not expensive at all.
It's not expensive just to get out and enjoy an evening, much needed.
How much is a hurricane, by the way?
How much are hurricanes at your establishment?
It's a 24-ounce drink and it's $11.50.
See, people,
there you go.
For less than $12 bucks.
For $11.
Yeah, come on.
Wham,
come
bam,
on,
thank you, ma'am.
And I'm willing to bet, since I've had this hurricane, I've seen 3 ghosts in here. So, I'm willing to bet.
And that's four. Our hurricane recipe calls for 4 ounces of rum. So you're really getting 4 drinks.
Right.
So I tell people
$11.
all the time. For $11.50, you're getting 4 drinks. And I tell people all the time, really, drink 1, see how you feel, maybe have another one. That third one you're doing is going to be the throw up stains, the vomit stains that you were talking about, Tim. You're going to see those.
Oh, yeah. That's not
we actually have cat litter.
Well, at that point, let's put 2 drinks in them and then send them off to another bar.
Yes, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question, since you're a hometown legend, since you're there, and if people like to think of stories from when they were in high school, and I'm from a big city as well in Las Vegas, and so locals have their legends and have their places that they went to. Can you tell us some of the local legends, or at least one that sticks out in your mind from when you were growing up and that might ring a bell for those listening?
Yeah, there are. So, again, we talked about San Antonio being extremely haunted. And I remember as a kid, and I did it, I experienced it. We had railroad tracks. And the rumor, the legend was that a bus of children was actually hit on the railroad tracks in the 1920s, 1930s or something. And so the legend had it that if you went and parked your car on those railroad tracks, that you would be pushed over the railroad tracks. And so people would put, talcum powder or whatever on their back of their windows. And then once they were pushed, go out and look and see if little handprints were there. So that was one that was fun. There was
Did you ever try that?
We did, but I was in high school, and Mom, I hope my mom's not listening, but I was drunk, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure I'd been drinking, now more importantly, I hope my kids aren't listening. Yeah. I hope my kids aren't listening, because I have a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old, so I don't want them to drink. Don't drink when you're in high school, kids. It's not good. Anyway, but yeah, we did it. I don't remember I don't remember the outcome. But we have that. We have there's a legend of the donkey lady here in San Antonio.
Okay.
That apparently was in her husband was crazy, burned the house down, and she became so disfigured that her hands and feet were like fused together, so they looked like hooves apparently. And she was this was like in the 1940s. She was outcast, ended up dying, living in the woods by herself, dying. And so now that area is haunted. And so you go to this bridge in San Antonio, and supposedly you hear her screaming in pain for that. So I haven't experienced that one myself, because that one freaked me out a little.
I guess the real question is, when she screams, does it sound like a woman or a donkey?
I thought
donkey.
I thought
Exactly.
Tijuana.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
No, the railroad track one, I think that's probably the best known one in San Antonio. I know, I think it was like the first or second time I went to San Antonio. I was going to try that, but just knowing me, like, nobody's going to save me. So like I was afraid that, you know, yeah, they're like, fuck this guy. Like he's just,
we're not. The train comes.
Yeah. Like we're not going to help this asshole. Yeah. But yeah, I've heard that one too. And there's another one that I've heard quite a bit. Is it San Antonio where it's like the Goat Man or something, or Goat Man's Bridge or something? Is that near San Antonio?
No.
Or am I just crazy?
Yeah, I don't know that.
But I know what you're talking about. That's not San Antonio, but that is
somewhere in Texas.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm not totally.
No, you're not.
Well, yeah.
Because I want to go there. But yes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We had a again, you know, the name has not done well over time, but it was called the Midget Mansion, and it was a mansion that was supposedly housed by some smaller people. I don't even know that they were actually little people, apparently, but you know, and the father apparently killed everybody in the house, and it was supposedly haunted. That's what dads do. Yeah.
Damn whites make them crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's either that or the mom drowns them in the bathtub.
That's true.
Yeah.
God,
I mean,
that's horrible, Tim. Yeah. God.
Well, I mean, it's true. Hey. That's what happened.
I mean, yeah, you can Google it.
That house is haunted. Mom drowned kids in the bathtub.
Yeah.
There's ghosts there.
So, but
and they're always going like, blah, blah, blah,
she's crazy.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Poor kids. But so yeah, San Antonio has its share of stories, and like you said, downtown is full of you know, there's the Minger Hotel, there's the Crockett Hotel, not too far from here there's the Victoria Swan Inn, that's supposedly extremely haunted. So you know, we definitely have our share of spots, and I mean, I'm just you know, like you said, Tim, you feel honored that, you know, they appear around you, and fortunate. I mean, I'm glad that they've been here. It certainly helped put Paddo's, you know, give Paddo's another reason to be talked about. And, you know, so yeah, maybe I appreciate you guys coming through here and doing a tour and stopping and sharing those stories with everybody. Cause I mean, they're noteworthy and they're fun and, you know, just kind of makes you go, things that make you say,
things that make you go.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a huge history buff, and that's actually what impressed me about San Antonio more than any other aspect of the town, was when I was walking around downtown, like it just felt old. Like at least the parts that I was in, you know, the area around the Alamo and the Menger Hotel and the Emily Driscoll. Is that the name of that hotel? Emily Driscoll?
Emily Morgan.
Emily Morgan. Yeah, all those hotels, like they just scream like I almost felt like I was in an episode of Boardwalk Empire, like during Prohibition. Like it just kind of felt like all your old theaters and stuff like that. And our goal is to get people interested in the history of our cities. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of people that are like, oh, history tours, I can't wait. So we use ghosts as a catalyst, you know, so we're going to pull you in with the ghosts. Like, oh, you want to see some ghosts maybe, or you want to hear about some ghosts? But our tours are just chock full of history. Like, you know, so to get people into downtown and you know, if nothing else, hopefully they'll leave with a deeper understanding and appreciation of what San Antonio is all about.
Well, and I agree with you. And I will tell you, you know, to kind of put a feather in y'all's cap, I have been on a couple of your tours in different cities. And I agree with you there. It's a great way to really kind of see a city, whether it's, you know, in your backyard that you haven't visited in a while, or a new city completely. And you're right. I mean, you get a little bit of history, you get a little fun facts. And if you can include bars in it and do a bar ghost tour, where do you sign up? I mean, that's a no brainer. So,
well, pub crawls tend to be our most popular tours. Like no matter what market
why wouldn't they?
Yeah, why not?
But we're just like you. We want to give the best experience possible to all of our guests that come.
Yeah, or just get them drunk.
Or get them drunk.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to let James do his thing, and we'll be right back with you, Cory.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm Matthew.
And I'm Quentin.
And this is Visceral Reactions, your regular stop for irregular amounts of horror. Join us as we analyze horror movies and explore their historical contexts. From classic scares to hidden gems, hear in-depth discussions and new perspectives on the genre. Tune in every week to expand your horror horizons on Visceral Reactions, the podcast.
So, Cory, we were talking about, local legends and, folklore around San Antonio before the break. Mm-hmm. And, we could literally spend hours and hours talking about all the legends of San Antonio because, there's tons. It seems like every mission, every district, every neighborhood. What is it, the King Williams district? Yeah, the stories that come out of that district are crazy.
Yeah.
Then we're not going to go into all them, but I encourage people, to look this up. You can Google, if you're looking for things to do in San Antonio and you're a big ghost paranormal nut, just go Google haunted places in San Antonio and you're going to be amazed by the number of places that come up and the number of stories that come up. But I always have to not preface that, but also say, just don't go visiting these places without permission. We had an article on our website that was about the Chinese graveyard. Have you heard that story, Cory, about the Chinese graveyard?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's supposedly a haunted graveyard on the outskirts of San Antonio, but it's also private. So we had people that were reading our article and then just busting into this place. And I don't think they were vandalizing or anything, but they were trespassing. Yeah.
So be respectful.
Yeah, so if you read about haunted San Antonio or the places that you can visit, get permission before you go. And for God's sakes, I think Midget Mansion that we were just talking about, that burned down or something, right?
Yeah, it did burn down.
It did, yeah.
It's an apartment complex now, I think.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I don't know what they put there, yeah.
So I guess you can't go busting into Midget Mansion, but, get permission before you go to these places. And don't be trying to sneak into Pat O'Brien's at 3 a.m. to...
Nope.
No.
See the ghosts.
But I will say, part of the nice thing about, keeping people as long as we have here is that they all have an experience. Mm-hmm. So, whether they're on that tour, it's a ghost tour and coming through, or even after the tour is over and having a cocktail, talk to one of the staff members because they all have their own, they all have their own experiences and their own stories that they can share. So it's not, it's not like these paranormal activities only happen around me or anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage that too, is get some different perspectives from some different employees here,
So if I was going to come to Pat O'Brien's and I wanted to try to experience the ghosts that haunt your place, what's the best day to come in? Obviously I'm probably not going to come on a Friday or Saturday night when everybody's in there hooting and hollering and having a good time. And also where in Pat O'Brien's would I probably want to sit?
Yeah. Well, so our ghosts are unionized, Tim, so they only work between the hours.
Unions.
Damn unions. So, I don't know that there is a specific time or even certainly upstairs, again, throughout the course of our tenure here, more occurrences occur upstairs and people that have been here have said that there's more kind of energy and in the upstairs area. And that upstairs really isn't open during the week because, just volume and things like that. So we get really busy on Friday and Saturday nights, obviously. And so I would encourage you to come then, but there's nothing, again, like I mentioned, coming in and sitting down, having a hurricane, having a beer, having a cocktail, whatever it is, having some great food that we serve, and just talking with the wait staff about it, talking to the manager on duty and saying, hey man, I hear this is haunted. Tell me your experience. Because they all have different ones and ones that I haven't shared that, are privy to them and, their personal experience that they can kind of share those stories and really kind of let people know.
So if I walk into Pat O'Brien's and I ask my waitress, hey, tell me about the ghosts, are you going to look at me funny? Are you going to look at me like I'm a little crazy?
I told you, we named him Timmy. So everyone here,
right.
And even new hires, we let them know. It's part of the orientation process. It's like, hey, just to let you know, you can't drink on the job. You don't come in high. Oh, and by the way, we're haunted. So,
right.
Gotcha.
So it's, it's on that list that we go over,
So stop by Pat O'Brien's, tell him ghost you saw us here and wanted to say hi. Don't be afraid to speak up.
So what's in the future for Patos? Like, we're going into 2023 here. I mean, is it kind of like the same as normal? Like, what do you guys got going on over the next,
I mean, yeah, I mean, we got obviously New Year's Eve happening, which is pretty cool. And we do, in this actual space that I'm in right now, we do a VIP event. It's $100. It's an open bar, complete open bar.
For $100?
$100? Shit, that's the way to go.
Yeah, you're trying to go out of business?
That's all inclusive. Yeah, it's $100. You get heavy hors d'oeuvres. You get we have a DJ here. We have party favors. You get a seat, so it's a party, and it's it's $100 a head, which is a great deal.
Yeah,
and then. But looking, to the future, we're really excited about what's going on with the Alamo. We think that that's going to draw a lot of people to the downtown area and to the city of San Antonio. I mentioned COVID and mentioned that, we're still, we're swimming, and so we're just, eager. And I think, everyone that I've talked to and on the city side of things has said that, 2024, 2025 is really when they expect things to kind of get back to pre-COVID levels. So it's really just, doing what we do, doing it well, letting people know how much we appreciate them, whether they are out of towners or even more importantly, locals, coming down and supporting a local business. And I think a lot of people have the misconception that Pat O'Brien's is, this conglomerate and, whatever, New Orleans owns it. This is a mom and pop shop. Literally, you're looking at the pop, and so, this is a small business. And so we need local support, and we need people to come back and remember us and talk about their experience and let people know that, hey, if you want a great time, listen to great music, either on our patio with live music, and support our piano players, support our DJs. I mean, this place employs a lot of different kind of people and different kind of artists, if you will. And so it's a great way to really come out and kind of just show your appreciation for that, because it's number one, it's not easy to do, and these people, are really trying to make a livelihood. So,
definitely. I mean, get out, spend your money.
Yeah.
Get out of the house, everybody.
Yeah.
You're not taking it with you. I mean, there's not many ghosts of Pat O'Brien's that are waving $100 bills, right? So
I wish there were. I wish I had a ghost that just shat little buckets of gold, and I'd go clean that up. I would be the guy that.
That's part of the orientation now. Like, all right, every once in a while you might see a ghost shit gold.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Leave it alone.
By the way, you have to turn that in.
Yeah.
That's part of the checkout.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but yeah, I mean, look, I as much as I, kind of pushed and advocated San Antonio, I'm a big advocate again of Pat O'Brien's, and I think that we really are a place that is super accepting. Whether you're gay, straight, I don't care what color you are, because we have all of those people that work together, and it's really a rainbow here, and so we just want to provide fun. The motto of Pat O'Brien's is have fun. And so New Orleans does it their way, and they do a fantastic job of it. And certainly we took that blueprint and really kind of tweaked it to make it San Antonio-ish, but that's my goal, is that when people walk out of here, that they really fall in love with whoever was waiting on them and serving them, to entertaining them, to really kind of just walk out of here and go, man, I had a lot of fun. And if at the time they have an experience with a ghost, then we won't charge them for that. That's a freebie.
Charge. Yeah.
Actually,
exactly.
The business person to me is like, like how, because they can't prove they didn't, right?
Exactly.
like I know you had an encounter with a ghost. That's why that extra $20 is there.
Wait till you
exactly.
On top of gratuity,
the ghost fee.
It says ghost fee.
The ghost fee.
Yes.
All right, Cory. Well, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to try to, get this episode out there, and hopefully a lot more of those people who are in the suburbs of San Antonio start coming downtown, realizing that there is a lot to offer, and it's not just for tourists.
Exactly.
And because that's a huge misconception. Downtown's for tourists, right? Get downtown, have some fun. If you're into the ghosts and the paranormal, there's plenty to see and experience in downtown San Antonio.
Go talk to them at Pat O'Brien's, ask them their experience.
Yeah. Go grab a hurricane.
Exactly.
I had one here and like
Go too.
Yeah.
want another one.
No, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys pitching, the city of San Antonio and pitching the kind of the local experience. The ghost tours that you offer are such a great way to really kind of visit and revisit your own city. And so I would highly recommend all the listeners do that as well. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely, Cory. We appreciate your time. We'll put a link, in the show notes below to your website. We'll hopefully get a lot more people vomiting in the hallways.
I'll look for it from my parking garage down here. I'll look for it.
Yes.
And I'll nickname them Timmys and Misties and and all that.
I would love that.
There you go.
That's great.
So go in and see Cory and tell him that you saw us here on the podcast.
Yeah, please do.
All right, Cory. Okay. Well, we appreciate your time.
Yes.
And thanks for joining us. And until next time.
Until next time.
Awesome. Thanks. This was spooky.
Yeah, so spooky. So scary.
Thank you.
Thanks,
we appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great evening.
All right. Hey, guys. Thank you very much, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
This town was built on the backs of rustlers and tussling. You only need to dig a little before you find the bones. So come meet the spirits of gunslingers and working girls as we explore San Antonio like you've never seen it before.
The Madams and Mayhem Tour. Book now at ghostcitytours.com.
All right, everybody. On today's submission, we are going to be looking at this photograph from Salem, Massachusetts. As some of you guys know, we get a lot of guests, and Misty knows this because she sees them too.
Yeah.
People take our tours, they take pictures, and they send them to us, wanting us to look at them and tell them what we think.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't really take a close look to their pictures till they get home or they're looking at their hotel room. So, then they start zooming in, thinking that they see something, and then by chance see an apparition of some chance. So.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So this one, it came to us anonymously, right?
Yes.
So, but we do know that it was taken in Salem, Massachusetts at the Gardner Pingree House, which is a pretty historic house. And from what I'm told, and Wikipedia confirms this, there was a murder there in 1830.
And that's factual.
Yep. And the guy's name was Captain Joseph White. And I'm not saying that. So anyways, the picture's on the screen here. I'm sure James will put this up so everybody else can see it a little bit more closely. But I don't know. Off the top of my head, it kind of looks like a Captain James White. And I'm the first one to totally shit on every ghost photos.
Okay.
But so some of the things we look for when people send us ghost photos, we look for obvious instances of pareidoia. And pareidoia, of course, is your mind trying to make sense of a pattern that's in front of you. Like if people do it with clouds all the time. You look at a cloud and you're like, oh, that looks like, Shaquille O'Neal dunking on Michael Jordan in the NBA. And that's totally them. But it's not. It's just your mind trying to make sense of the pattern. So that's the first thing I look at is, okay, is there pareidoia going on here? And I'll be honest, if this is pareidoia, it's some pretty damn good pareidoia.
Does it make a difference that it looks like the same color? Because it both has like that sepia hue look to it.
I would think that could just be the color of the light coming through the window. Maybe the glass is tinted or it's just an old window and it's kind of putting everything, because that's what we're looking at, right? That's inside of a window.
Yeah. It was a top story of that house.
Oh, well, one, that's a pretty level photograph straight on to be second story of the house. But, off the top of my head, I'm, and by the way, it probably is pareidoia.
No, don't say that. You had my hopes.
No, it probably is. Shit. Because, I've been doing this ghost stuff 20 years. I think in 20 years, I've seen maybe 4 photographs that I'm like, oh, okay. That's definitely a ghost. And the problem with photographs is, and this is why if you guys got video, send us the video, because video is way more convincing.
Okay.
You could take a look at a picture and you're only getting a tiny snapshot in time. Like, for example, let's say this was a video and that is Captain Joseph White right there. But let's say the head turns away. Holy shit. How could you dispute that? There's literally a guy's head that is, he looks old and decrepit with a scraggly beard. But if he turned away, that's really hard to debunk unless there was a real person there that like we just didn't know about. But when you look at a photograph, like I can definitely see what this individual saw. I mean, obviously we can see, his hair, his forehead, his brow line, the nose, like a mouth, and what looks like a beard. Like that's pretty hard to dispute.
Yeah.
So if I was going to say, like, give my final verdict on this photograph, I would have to say, just because, like, even though I believe in ghosts, like I've seen too many to not, but I'm still a skeptic at the end of the day. I would have to say this is a really good case of pareidoia, like our mind seeing, a smudge mark, or for example, what if a kid or an adult literally just press their face against the glass, right? And like you leave your oil and everything right there on the window, and then the light hits that oil, and guess what? It's going to look exactly like a face. Could that be what's going on here? I don't know.
Oh, well, I see the person for sure.
Oh, I do
and
too.
So it's like, but the resemblance, like what I see kind of reminds me of the thing that came from The Ring, the girl with the long hair.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Oh, okay. I love horror films. But so like I get that and I see the face, but it's creepy as shit, whatever it is. Like if you're looking just through pictures and you see that and you went on this tour and you know that something could have happened in that house, obviously our minds play a huge part into anything.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really cool picture no matter what.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it's hard for me to definitively say,
but it would scare the shit out of me if it was
not
video
a ghost.
and you watched it turn its head. I'd
Oh,
probably
fuck.
piss
Like
myself.
if that turned its face right now, I'd be like, holy shit. Like that's the the holy grail, like, right? But because it is a picture, if I'm being completely skeptical and honest, it could have been somebody that had pressed their face up against that window, left an oil imprint, and then the light hit that oil, and then now you see a face. Am I saying that's what it was? No.
Yeah.
Bottom line, I think this is a great photograph, and I'm glad that Mr. or Mrs. or Miss Anonymous sent this in.
Yes.
Because it illustrates a lot of points that you want to take into consideration when you're looking at pictures of alleged ghosts or paranormal phenomena.
Yeah. So if anybody has any other pictures though from this house or anywhere, send them. I want to see, especially if they might think they have something similar to this picture in their window.
Right.
Maybe we could compare it to this one.
Well, here's one of the things you can do if you're taking pictures like this.
Okay.
Because I said, like, it would have been great if this was video and you saw that face turn around or blink or smile or something. But don't stop at one picture. A lot of times people walk up to a house and they just, snap, and then they like look for another part of the house and snap. Take a couple pictures of that same area. If you believe, take a picture and look. If you think you saw something in that photograph, take 2 or 3 photographs over 10, 20, 30 seconds. Because, for example, if they took this photograph, this was the first one they took, let's say, and they took one 10 seconds later and that's not there anymore, then I can't say, well, that's just oil residue from somebody pressing their face against the window.
Okay.
Like, because I'm like, okay, well, that was there and now it's not, which lends more credibility that it could be something paranormal in nature.
Gotcha. That's good to know.
But like I said, it's a pretty damn good photograph, I think. I cannot say, and by the way, nobody can ever say a photograph has a ghost in it. That's the other hard part about photos is like I can't prove that that's a ghost. But I will say that it is spooky. It is creepy. I definitely don't want that guy watching me while I'm sleeping.
The photos that you have that you got pictures of, did you notice a different vibe when you went to that area and made you take pictures, or like you felt impelled to take a picture of that? Or
not usually. I mean, it's just when I would go to places, there were times where like I felt a vibe, and I'd take a picture. Or let's say we were at like, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital and you turn the corner and there's a long hallway ahead of you.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just going to snap a photo.
Of course.
See what's down there.
Yeah.
But in this case, putting yourself in the position of somebody who's on one of our tours, in this case, what was it? The Ghost of Salem tour. It's very often that people are just like, oh, that's a beautiful home. I'm going to take a picture of it and see if there's a ghost there. So, over the years, I found there's really no rhyme or reason to why people take the photographs that they do other than that it's a beautiful old home. Maybe there's a ghost looking in the window. I don't know. So I guess the bottom line with this photo, I'm going to give this one a B.
A B?
A B.
Okay.
Because like I said, it's pretty good.
Okay.
But if we're being completely skeptical and not just jumping to the conclusion everything is a ghost, the reality is it could be explained through something else.
And like you, I'm a huge skeptic, so I would have said a C.
Yeah. Well,
but
I don't know.
Yeah, but I think it's cool as shit. So yeah. I love seeing stuff like this. So thank you, Anonymous, for submitting that photo.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sending that in. And if you're on any of our tours, or if you're on it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're just walking through Savannah or Salem or San Antonio or wherever you might be, and you catch a good photo and you want us to take a look at it, feel free to send it in, and we'll take a look at it. Yes. You can, like this person did, you can do it completely anonymously, or you can give us your name, and we'll give you credit for it. So,
by all means. All
right, so send those pictures in, and we look forward to probably shitting on them, but we're gonna be very nice about it. But then again, if it's a good photo, it's a good photo, and we'll acknowledge it as such. So
and share it.
Yeah,
let everybody see. Thank
sharing
you.
is caring.
Yes.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for joining us on this session, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hometown Hauntings is brought to you by Ghost City Tours, the best tour company in the nation for giving you both chills and thrills. They offer tours in more than a dozen cities across the United States. Whether you're looking for a fun night out with the family, a pub crawl with friends, or a gruesome look at genuine history, visit GhostCityTours.com to book a tour in a haunted city near you.